My name's Andrea Dupree. I'm the program director at Lighthouse Writers Workshop, and I'd love to welcome all of you here who are here to learn about the book project. And possibly you already know what Lighthouse Writers Workshop is, but just in case you don't, we're an independent nonprofit literary center in Denver, Colorado. We were founded in the late 90s. And we used to be very centered on place, but now we're finding that we're everywhere that computers are. So if you're from outside of Colorado, welcome. And if you're from inside of Colorado, welcome. We don't discriminate in that way. The book project started, an iteration of it started around 2015, which is kind of shocking. And in recent years has gotten to the place where it is now. The idea is that writing a book is really hard. And could we have some guardrails? Could we have some community? Could we have some support? All of those things seem to help as far as I've heard. And it makes it a little bit less of a daunting and / depressing prospect to hole away and work on a book for years. Just in the last few weeks, we've heard, and you guys will meet some of these people from people who've signed with their agents. We've had a couple book deals come through, one for an alum, one for a current member, all in the past few weeks, which is great. And everyone else is just thriving and working on their books, which is amazing. And maybe some of you will be joining us. Okay, so I'm going to introduce William Haywood Henderson. We call him Bill, who is the head of the book project and one of the mentors, and also just a lovely novelist himself. For those of you who don't know, we will have a little presentation with some of the writers and alums and mentors, and then we will open up for questions, which you can also do in the chat as we go. It's probably most useful to use speaker view. Hopefully you're seeing a whole panel of people, and keep yourself muted until we open up for questions. So thank you very much. And I'm gonna turn it over to Bill.
Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, we did start this a couple years ago. It's hard to believe it's 5 or 6 years. And one of the thoughts behind it was that we had one particular student who needled us for a couple of years. She had gotten into a remote MFA program, but it was going to be $70,000. And she said, "Can't you guys do an MFA program?" She'd been working on a novel and been coming to classes for years, and wanted something that was pretty much that would follow her book through. So we began to put together a program. A lot of us have MFAs and we know what we got and what we didn't get out of an MFA. And we thought we would try to put together, and it's a work in progress, but I think we've got it perfect now. It's a work in progress, but it's a program in which you will have one mentor over 2 years to work on a project. One of the things that I found in graduate school is I was writing a novel, and each time I switched to a different teacher, they had to sort of learn what I was doing all over again. This way you have a group of 6 mentees, and then you have your mentor, and we all get to know your book and you really, really well over the 2 years. So our hope was that it would really help people focus on their book. And what has turned out is that people come away from the program with a hefty draft of a full book, which is very cool. Plus, we just have a great time. We have these weekend intensives. We have group meetings, the mentor group meetings. All of the mentors are amazing. There's no issue there at all. It's just we're just happy that you tuned in today, and we hope we can answer all of your questions. Everyone else is better at this than I am, so I'm just going to tell you the order that we're going to go in. Wahini Vara is going to go first. because she has to leave at a certain point. Erica Kraus is another mentor. These are the mentors. Erica Kraus, Ben Whitmer down there is going to talk after that. And then Shauna, who, one of the things that we thought the program would be useful in the program was to learn about, like, how do you get an agent? There's Shauna. How do you get an agent? How do you get published? And she runs a full 2-year program on agenting and publishing, and she's amazing. Then Torin, who holds everything together, is going to talk about dates that you have to get your applications in, fees and things like that. And then we're going to hear from 5 students, some current and some graduates. Sumi Lee, Jenny Dandy, also, I always mispronounce his name, Guardiola, Simo Stolzoff, and Tawana, who just got in from the club, so she's a little rough. And then after that, we're going to do Q&A, and you can type your questions in the chat, and I will keep track of them. Either I will call on you or I'll just read the question. I'm going to hand it over now to Wahini Vara.
Thanks, Bill. I'm so excited everyone's here. I am going to talk, the other mentors will have a lot to say about the book project in general, I think. I'm going to talk about one particular aspect of the book project, which is remote participation for those of you who either don't live in Colorado or do live in Colorado but prefer to participate mostly remotely in the book project. It's something that we got a lot of experience with this past year, of course, when we were all remote. Everything about the book project took place remotely, more or less, over the past year. And so all of the mentors you'll find have experience and interest in including remote participants in their group. Each of us has a cohort, has a first-year cohort of 6 members and a second-year cohort of 6 members. And for many of us, there will often be a combination of in-person participants and remote participants. So you may be a remote participant in the book project where 3 of the members of your cohort are in Denver and are attending events or attending meetings and talks in person, but you're largely tuning in over Zoom. And we have a lot of experience with that, and that works really well. What I've been doing this year with my first-year cohort and next year with my incoming first-year cohort is to have a group that's actually almost entirely remote, so that even when knock on wood, when the pandemic's over, when we're all vaccinated, whatever, I will be holding many of my group sessions remotely rather than in person, because the assumption is that people are coming in from all over the place. And I enjoy that. I like for this cohort that I'm responsible for to be accessible to people all over the country, all over the world, so that we can learn from a sort of diverse group of fellow cohort members. And so the way that works is pretty straightforward. The book project includes, among many other things, 6 meetings with your cohort each year. 3 of those take place at what are known as weekend intensives, which Bill touched on, and others I'm sure we'll talk about in more detail. 3 of them take place outside of the weekend intensives. So now that things will be partly in person again, my goal for my incoming first-year cohort will be for us to all be present at those in-person meetings. So those are 3 times a year. There's some flexibility there, but ideally, like, we're all able to make it in person 3 times a year. And then outside of that, in those 3 group meetings that take place outside of the weekend intensives, we'll do those remotely over Zoom, so people don't have to get on a plane or get in a car for a long drive to come in person. If you need some flexibility there and are interested in applying or do apply, feel free to reach out to me or reach out to the book project, and your inquiry will get to me. But that's how it works. I see a question about what the curriculum looks like. and how you take classes while working with a mentor. I think I'll leave that to others who are discussing book project more broadly. Bill, Andrea, is there anything I missed? I wanted to sort of handle the logistical component of this. Okay.
Sounded good. Sorry, I was
Great.
muted.
So I'll leave
Yeah.
the sort of broader aspects to
Yeah, and I'm tracking these questions. So once we get through, we're going to go back to the question. We'll circle back.
Okay.
Thank you, Wahini.
Yeah, thank you.
I think it's me, right? No, sorry.
Yes.
Hi, sorry about that. Hi, I'm Erica. I am one of the book project mentors, and we all have certain specialties, but most of us just pretty much do anything. So if you're wondering about genre, we're all pretty available. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, hopefully briefly, about how the book project differs a little bit from an MFA, because some of you might be also considering an MFA or considering one instead. So there's a few major differences. One is the book project is very book centric, and again, in any genre. So MFA programs are academic programs, so there might be language requirements, or they tend to be sort of funneled into shorter works, So to excel in an MFA program, you usually write short stories or essays rather than novels or memoirs, just because of the way the workshops work there. But book project is really focused around writing a book, and we don't care about all the other stuff. Let's see, another, and again, any genre will work. So if you are doing short work, that's fine too. We do a collection, right? Another big difference is money. Book project is, I think, $14,000 over 2 years. MFA programs can cost you either in money from like $55,000 up to, I think Bill mentioned 70,000 or something, for low residency. And then for residency programs, even with full funding, you have to move, you have to get a new job, you have to get loans to support yourself while you're studying. And they don't pay, if they give you a fellowship, they don't pay that much. So you're costing a lot in life stuff, So the math works out to, you can be saving about $40,000 by doing the book project. And you don't have to tailor your life around the program. You don't have to worry about grades. We don't grade. The real grade is, is the book going to work, right? And a lot of our students attend while, working full time, raising families. And it's our job as mentors to help you fit your writing into your existing life rather than fit your life around the program. In an MFA, you maybe get 100, 150 pages of your manuscript read with feedback from your thesis advisor. And Bill and I have both worked on these theses, and the feedback's honestly not that much. With book project, you get all your workshops for feedback, plus you get 2 full reads of your entire manuscript up to 100,000 words, which is about 400 pages. And you get it read once by your mentor and once by a writer of your choice after you revise. So that's, again, a difference of about 700 extra pages you get to submit just with that piece, not even counting the workshops. And your mentor will have a pretty good idea of your work by that time. So you're likely to have honestly better feedback, I think. You just get more time with your book project mentor. A lot of book project people come to the book project with MFAs already in hand. We've had students with MFAs from University of Iowa, Cornell, University of Florida. We had a Pulitzer Prize winner in journalism, and we've had lots of PhDs and MDs too. And people with higher degrees. So there's a difference in the student body a little bit, which leads me to I think the most valuable part of the book project, which is the community piece. The community here is more experienced, I think, less competitive. In the MFA program, it can be very backbiting. You compete to get in and you compete to stay in. But here people tend to help each other. The group size is smaller, it's 6. And it's also larger because you have the large community of 48 people, also renewable by half each year. So you get to know about 72 writers potentially during your intensives and your workshops when we're not having a pandemic. let's see. The last thing I think is a huge, huge benefit, and I have not seen it yet in an MFA program, which is the publishing help, which is Shauna. And also the business panels and agent meetings included with your LitFest as part of your enrollment. But but Shauna is really indispensable for helping you understand what this job is and how it all works. So I'll let Shauna talk about that, but I think those are the major points, unless I left something out. Thanks.
Erica, I think it's my turn, and I'm talking about genre or how working with people with different genres. And I want to say, I always say first that I love genre writing, and I think I mean, not to say that any of the other mentors don't, but you know, Clive Barker once said that the only place religion is talked about seriously in the United States is in the horror genre. And in the same way, I kind of think the only way that class is talked about in the United States is in the crime genre. But you can take that or leave it. What I'm saying is that I do take it very seriously. I write myself in a sub genre, so sub that I don't even publish in the US anymore. But you know, I believe in genre work, and I've worked with lots of genre writers from different genres. I do try, when I'm managing people working in different genres, to get some understanding of the tropes of the genre they're working in. So, for instance, I may not know a whole lot about the romance genre. So I do some reading, try and talk to you, figure out what you're doing, so we can work to make the book that you want to make. I do believe that every genre has its own tropes. Mine, noir, comes from tragedy. So there's certain things that I can and can't do. I don't get to have happy endings. That's just part of the genre. Whatever you choose would be yours. But I don't know what else to say, except that I do think that we're open to genre. We believe in it. I know I do, and I think everybody else does too. And I think we also believe that there are certain things that translate across all of them, right? Like we would all expect to see good writing. We would all expect to see, we will all tell you, no on the nose dialogue. There's certain things that do go across all, but at the same time, we are considerate of the differences. And I think that's all I have.
Hello, everybody. I'm Shauna. And as you've heard, I did previously work as a literary agent for 10 years with William Morris, and worked in New York and in London. And William Morris, being a big agency, just saw, Ben was making me think about it, all types of books, every type you could possibly imagine, every genre. And, worked on selling them. And so when I came to Denver and connected with Lighthouse, I immediately started teaching these publishing courses, because most people, like I'm guessing most of you, can spend any amount of time writing a book, and then when they're finished, they don't really know what to do with it. And I wanted to help the people in this course in particular avoid that hurdle, or avoid it stopping you from taking the next step. We usually start talking in the publishing course about, like, ideally, what do you want? Do you want like a big publisher? Do you want an agent? And so my job is to explain to people how the business works, how to find an agent if that's what you want to do, what the role of an agent is, how do you get their attention through a query letter. So we talk about query letters, we talk about nonfiction book proposals, and how to find these agents. And hopefully I demystify the process a little bit. I think it can be intimidating and scary, and I am here to be translator, liaison, cheerleader for you as you approach these agents with your work. And so your time with me in the book project is really mostly during these weekend intensives that other people have spoken about, these 3 intensives per year. You will always take 3.5-hour course from me on these weekends, and we talk about the business side really intensely over these 6 workshops that we have together. But you also, as a student, have time with me outside of these intensives, one-on-one time. In the last year or so, it's been Zoom, which actually works great. but we can also meet in person moving forward. It's exciting for me. And that's when we really get to dig into what you're doing, your particular questions, you know, maybe your own experience with agents that you're having in that moment. Maybe it's about really digging into your query letter. And certainly I advise people every year on the agents who are coming to LitFest, which I think we also touched on slightly. In the book project, you will get access. Part of what you're paying for is a business pass to LitFest, which brings with it all sorts of amazing classes and opportunities for workshops. But it also means you can meet with an agent. And every year Lighthouse brings these agents in and we go through the list of agents in real detail as a group. And then one-on-one, I talk to people about who they maybe should meet with and, you know, what that meeting will look like. So yeah, I will resist the urge to ramble further, but that's basically my role here. And yes, yeah, I have a question though. Let's see if I can handle this. I don't know what the percentage is. This is the question in the chat is what percentage of students who want to get an agent or get published have been successful? I don't know that percentage. I think in general, our percentage is better than what the percentage would be for people not taking the book project. Certainly a lot of people have connected with agents over the years, and that's really just the first step in getting published, as some of our students will speak about their experience there. It's a tough, I don't like to talk about percentages because it's kind of depressing in general to talk about it. You guys, just in writing a book and deciding to write a book, have already beaten so many odds. And every step in the process, you're beating more and more odds. So, you know, we just hope that we're going to increase your chances of success by giving you the information you need to know. And, you know, I'll stop.
Hello, everyone. I'm Torrin. I help coordinate the book project, and I'm here to talk about some of the nuts and bolts of the program. I will start with tuition. As Erica mentioned, it's $7,000 per year, $14,000 across the 2 years, and that includes all courses. All book project participants get 4 4-week workshop credits and 5 8-week workshop credits, which you can use as intended. We also let book project participants trade those for things like speculative fiction weekend workshop or towards a LitFest advanced workshop. So there's some flexibility there in how you use those credits, and you have 3 years to actually use those. So not just the 2 years that you're part of the program, but sort of that third year when you're finishing up your, what we call the second read, which is the second time around someone reads your manuscript. So that third year is kind of the final year that you're kind of finishing up some of your book project work, and you can use those credits during that year. Tuition also covers the 3 weekend intensives that year, which includes the keynote, which kicks off the weekend on Friday night. That's the semi-public event where we invite a keynote speaker to come in and deliver a craft lecture. We had Melissa Febos just recently in April. In the normal non-pandemic year, it's a really great evening. We have catering, we have beer and wine. There's lots of people hanging out. It's just a really fun atmosphere. And then we kick off the kind of the hard workshopping and craft lecturing work on Saturday. So it covers a total of 6 weekend intensives, your mentor meetings. Tuition also covers your agent meetings, and as mentioned previously, 2 full manuscript reads. In terms of important dates, applications are due June 19th. So that's about a week after LitFest ends. And I'll put in the chat where you can apply and kind of learn about the book project in more detail. Let's see. For those of you who get into the program and accept your spot, orientation will be August 21st. And then we sort of just get going right away in September when the first weekend intensive kicks off. So, but if anybody has any questions after this info session leading up to applications, feel free to reach out. My email is just my name, Torin, Torrin@lighthousewriters.org, and I'll put that in the chat as well. That's all I got.
Hi, Bill. Am I supposed to go next? Okay. So hi, my name is Sumi Lee, and I am wrapping up in my second year of the book project. So I'm just going to share a little bit about what my experience has been. And actually, I will preface this by saying my experience is probably be a little bit different from what most people experience in the book project, or what you might think of other have experiencing. But I think that's actually the beauty of it, is that there's different writers that are at different points of their project and what they're working on, and this program is very adaptable to whatever it is that you want to work on. So I write lyric essays, which is really the hybrid kind of the genre between poetry and prose. Actually, when I first came to Lighthouse, I had only written poetry at that time, and it wasn't until I started taking classes at Lighthouse that I realized, oh, there's this hybrid space that I can live in that I feel more comfortable. I just wanted to write more of that. And as I mentioned in the chat, I met Erica Kraus at Grand Lake Retreat, where she heard me kind of read one of my essays and said, I think you should consider applying for the book project. So I came into the book project not because I had a book idea, but because I wanted to get more serious about my writing. I've been taking classes at Lighthouse for some time now, and I really felt like I needed that push to take it to the next level. I am a full-time working attorney with a busy schedule, and I felt like I was always trying to make time for this in my evening hours, but I just never had the energy to get anywhere. So I just really needed that regimen to see what I could do. So it was really a place where I wanted to get serious, and I really could not have had a better mentor and really coach in being with Erica. So one of the things that she has taught me in the last 2 years is that I can write no matter what is going on in my life. So in the past year, I got married in a pandemic wedding. I moved twice. I changed my job in my professional career in a pretty big way. And I would say that I have had one of the most productive years in my writing life in the midst of all of those things. Not to say that I don't struggle, but I just really know what prioritizing means to me now. And I feel less shame around, frankly, getting to the table. So, and actually the beauty of it is that in the midst of all this, like I said, I didn't have an idea for a book or really desire to do that. But now that I'm towards the end of my program, I actually have an idea for a book that I will be taking my third year to really work on. So, who knew? I didn't expect to find a book idea, and I found it almost at the end of the program. So don't feel like you have to come into the program already working on a novel, already working on something. If you just have that desire to kind of really dedicate and become better at the craft, I think sometimes that alone is enough to really help you find that regimen and the joy in writing again. So that to me has been the biggest game in it all. So I think somebody asked that in the chat earlier about how do you balance the classes and the workshops and your day-to-day life. I think one of the ways that this program will teach you is exactly how you can do that, so that this can become a lifelong craft that you enjoy. So that's a little bit about what I wanted to share. If there's any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Simi. Now, Jenny.
It's not, okay. Can you hear me now? I graduated last year, 2020. Ben was my mentor. And I guess what I want to tell you is how much fun the weekend intensives are. There's just there's always so many great speakers, and it just makes you start thinking, and it's just so exciting. And you spend the entire weekend, and every single person you're going to talk to that weekend is a writer. It's like the best of a writing retreat. And so it's just so much fun. You learn so much. And I came into it, Ben waitlisted me. And so I said, fine, I'm going to spend that year pretending I'm in the book project. Little did I know. Took classes, came out with a full manuscript, brought Ben my manuscript on the first meeting and said, let's go. And he said, okay, give me the one sentence elevator pitch of what your book is about. And I just went, oh man, because I knew that I had to change the whole thing. So anyway, I went through his read was unreal. It was 17 pages of single space notes, and he just nailed what I needed to do with the manuscript. And so I rewrote it. And then I had the second read, and then I started querying agents, which took about 6 months, and I have an agent. So that's my story. And I know that I could not have done that without the book project. There's just no way. I mean, you can try to put together some, workshops and some craft things from various places, and you get some really good education that way. But those weekend intensives and that mentor who was just on your side, everybody's on your side, and your mentor even more so, just encouraging you and figuring out how to make it work for you is I just can't say enough about it. I will always be grateful to the book project. Were there any questions or anything?
We can get questions when we're done.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Jenny, and congratulations on your agent. That's big.
Oh, thank you. It's very exciting.
Simo.
Hey everyone, I'm Simo. I am in Wahini's cohort. I'm a first-year book project mentee. I'm based in Oakland, California, so I'm an example of one of those remote students that has been doing this all over Zoom. And yeah, I can tell a little bit about my personal story, and then we can talk a little bit about what I got out of the book project. But the exciting news is that I sold my book 2 weeks ago. So I'll be published by Penguin Random House for an imprint called Portfolio. And I think, in many ways, I'm sort of the success story, because I came into the book project with sort of like an idea. I didn't even really have a book. I had like a topic that I was interested in writing. And over the course of the year, working with Shauna and working with Wahini, I queried an agent and I put together a proposal and ended up selling the proposal. I think in terms of like the project itself, I think the most underrated parts of the writing process are community and accountability. A lot of times we talk about like craft and learning at kind of the language or the sentence by sentence level, but it's really a community of other writers that has helped me stay accountable to my own goals and be able to go through this process, which can be very lonely. You can imagine sort of like the writer at Walden's Pond, emerging with a manuscript, but in actuality, the writing process is social, and it takes sort of other people invested in your process in order to go through this arduous task of trying to write tens of thousands of words. And so that's, I think, the thing that I've gotten out of this more than anything, is just having other people sort of hold this idea of myself as a writer and as an author, which is even a title that I was a little sheepish to take on for myself. And then there's just the value of the faculty. Shauna is amazing. I knew nothing about the publishing industry coming in. I was a journalist, but didn't really have any idea of the literary world. And Wahini, is an amazing editor and has really helped me frame my book and shape it, and everything from the 10,000-foot view of the outline of what I'm trying to say down to like working on the word by word language levels. And then the other part that we haven't really talked about much is just learning from the other mentees. In my group, there are journalists, there are memoirists, there are people that are writing in forms that are very different from my own. And I think I've been able to learn a lot at the margins, just from being able to read and discuss and workshop really deeply with folks that write differently than my own style. So very grateful, not just because it has been like quote unquote successful, but I think there's like a real spiritual value of being part of a community like this. So happy to answer any questions that you guys have as well. Thanks for having me on, Bill.
Hey, hi, I'm Twana, and I'm about to graduate, tearfully, I say. I'm ready to start all over again now that I've learned so much and really feel like this process has been so helpful. I would really want to do this all over again if I could find a way to afford to do so. I will tell you a little bit about my situation and my story. My primary genre is memoir. And I started off with an abundance of source material. I had written quite a bit of material. What I hadn't figured out how to do was to shape it. In my mind, I had an idea of a series of books, akin to what Maya Angelou has done with the 6 books in her series of memoirs. But still figuring that out and what that was going to look like was beyond my ability to figure out on my own. And what the book project has done for me has really helped me to fine tune that vision and to really focus on how to tell that story, to learn a lot about what the narrative arc is and how that works, and how to communicate that in a way that's accessible to the reader and still a compelling, intriguing, and a fascinating read. One of the things I like to talk about is the support that you get from the curriculum in addition to the relationship with your mentor and your cohort. You are able to take an abundance of classes. I think of Lighthouse in general as this feast. And Torin has alluded to the different kinds of workshops you can have. You can have up to 4 weeks and 5 8 weeks. Most of the ones that I've taken have been in the memoir genre. So I've been able to use the workshops to really generate a lot of material, get a lot of feedback that was specific to my book, and use that to support the broader vision of issues that comes in the intensives and in the cohort meetings. We also have one-on-ones with our mentor where we get to speak specifically about what's going on with our work, where are we, and how to move forward. I can't say enough about how important deadlines and accountability are. I experienced writer's block for the first time in my life, and I can reach out and touch 60 and had never experienced that before. And yet I discovered that it's survivable and that you can keep writing through it. And the community that we've created at the book project is so important. For example, during the pandemic, I started when everything was live. And then my second year, everything was virtual. And so we created this writing group that is on Sundays for people who just want to drop in on Zoom and write together. That still occurs every single Sunday with a variety of writers who just come together to work with each other independently. So we're there to support each other, but it's another time that we commit to just working on our own work. So there's so much that you can get from the book project for your specific projects, for your own personal and professional growth, that there's no limit to what you can get out of this experience other than what you limit yourselves to. So that's all I'm going to say for now, because I want to make sure there's plenty of time for questions, but I can't speak highly enough of this project. So back to Bill.
Thank you, Twana. You guys can see why I try to say very little because everyone else says it so well. I've been trying to track the questions, and it looks like a lot of them have been answered in the chat, if you guys have seen that. So I can't really tell anymore what's been answered and what hasn't been answered. So anyone wants to put a new question in the chat or unmute and ask the question, and we will hand it off to someone who might be able to answer it. No questions. Okay, see you guys.
Okay, I'll ask a question. So I'm kind of where Twana is. I have a lot of different material, but what I'm struggling with is definitely how in the world do I, put this in a cohesive arc and all of that. So I guess my question is on the application when we submit our samples, is it okay if it's just kind of like, hey, here's my novel and or memoir, whatever it's supposed to be, bunch of random excerpts, or does it need to be, chapter 1 all the way through chapter 4 or whatever?
Good question, Katie. Thank you. Erica, do you want to answer that?
Sure. Well, I have had a lot of students actually, or at least more than a few, come in with the same situation where they're like, oh, can I do both? Can I do both at the same time? Can I do one and then the other? And I've had most people just sort of discover that just the one project is enough for that time period. But some people have actually done one project and then another project. One came in with a collection and then started a novel based on one of the stories based in the collection. And some people have done both short stories and a novel simultaneously. The going was slower, as far as the application itself, like what should you apply with it? I'd mentioned both projects, but I would focus on the one that you think, if you really check in with yourself, there's one you're more excited about. There just is going to be. And that's the one, even if it's less developed than the other one, that's the one you should probably focus on for your application. That said, people can change their mind, and many do. I had another student who came in, she was going to write this kind of like sci-fi, mystery kind of thriller mystery kind of thing. And then she went into this like totally other development, like complete. It took her about a year and a half actually to come up with the plot that she really, really wanted to do. And she'd written tens of thousands of pages on the other story, but ended up abandoning that for the one that can really carry her through. She got an idea of like how hard this is and how much you have to really love your subject. So she found one that she does love, and she switched courses. So the program is flexible. Again, we don't give grades, so you can you have time to explore, time and space to explore. Hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I go next?
Yes, please, Kyle.
Okay. I get that we're going to be part of a cohort with so that means a group of students or mentees with our mentor, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, I guess because I've been accused of being anal retentive, and that's fine, or methodical and very rigid. That's my wife telling me that, and that's fine. What I'm trying to, and the reason why I'm asking this is when we are within our cohorts with our mentor, do you give us a syllabus or something of some sort, or like are there classes that we will be taking with our mentor exclusively with our cohorts?
You do have the 6 mentor group meetings every year in which you are working specifically with your group of 6 and your mentor. And those, we all run them differently, but they are always on a specific topic that we work through as a group. Then you also take workshops, which are not necessarily with your mentor as the teacher, although I have all of my first year people take my advanced novel workshop so that we all get to know each other's work that way. But that's not a requirement either. What you end up doing is working with your mentor to figure out what the best series of courses would be. And then as a group, the mentors, or as a person, the mentors get a sense of where the group is, where they need to go, focus in on certain things that we think are really going to help you guys as a group. And in the process, you're all getting to know each other's books really well. So a lot of the people over the 2 years, they form small writing groups. They have parties. They sometimes invite me and sometimes don't. Toward the end, they really know what each person wants, what they need, the kind of pressure they need, the kind of support they need. I don't know if that answers your question. Was that
almost
enough? Almost.
Yeah. I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, this is.
If anyone else wants to jump in on that.
I might be able to jump in a little bit just in terms of how I think about the organizational structure. So I kind of think about it as like 3 concentric circles. So there's you and your mentor, and not just a relationship based purely on your work. And so there's dedicated time just for you to meet with your mentor. And obviously there's like back and forth email exchanges and edits that go along for the 2-year process. And then there's the cohort. So there's you and the other 5 writers and your mentor. And this is sort of its own curriculum that each of the mentors organizes specifically for your cohort. So for example, I'm in Wahini's cohort and we meet basically monthly. And in each of those meetings, we'll either talk about a craft category, so something like structure or character or creating the world or language, or sometimes we'll have like a guest speaker of like another author that has work that is particularly germane to the works that we're working on. And then the third, the biggest circle is the relationship with the workshops that happen at Lighthouse. And so, as you probably know, Lighthouse offers an amazing sort of catalog of different classes. And as part of the book project, you get access to take many classes over the course of those 3 years. And those are really sort of like challenged by choice. There's like options for you to take classes inside of your genre, outside of your genre, 4-week classes, 8-week classes, weekend classes. And then there's also sort of like the whole book project as a whole, which has those weekend intensives that they were talking about. And so I think there's kind of value in each of those concentric circles. But in terms of the practicality and like the actual like number of hours you're spending, it really is up to you to be able to customize it to best serve your needs. I know people that have front loaded all of their classes in sort of the beginning while they're in the writing process. And I know people that have only spent the first 2 years, focusing on their project and then have saved the classes for the 3rd year once they might have a manuscript already in their hands, just to add to that sort of like spiritual value of writing.
I'd like to jump in too, Bill. You asked specifically about a syllabus. And I think one of the things that is important to bear in mind is that the mentors are all different. They have different styles. And they do have different ways of approaching how they mentor their cohorts throughout the 2-year program that you're with your mentor. In my case, I'm on Team Erica, and we have a syllabus. We most definitely have a syllabus. We have a syllabus that goes to the entire year and what we're working on every single month. And we get handouts every single month that take us through the entire hero's journey and the narrative arc and the entire process. One of the other things I did, I just wanted to throw out there, when looking at mentors, if you're able to take some of their classes, that might be a good idea. LitFest may be an opportunity to do some of that if you have that opportunity. I know the deadline is coming up really fast, so that's cutting it kind of close. And one other thing I did that was just fun was I read the books of all the mentors just to get a sense of what their writing was like. But writing is not the same as teaching. So that was interesting, but it doesn't necessarily let you know how they're going to be as a mentor. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you, guys. Those are great answers. You can see why I let everyone else talk instead of me. Nikki Lee, you have a question.
This is a question for the mentees. Are your cohorts all similar? So if you're into poetry, then your cohorts are all other poets, or is it a mix? And how do you use that to cross-pollinate in your work?
Can I try answering that? So I would say my particular cohort has people that are working on very different things. There's somebody who's working on kind of a sci-fi short story kind of genre. There's Twana who's working on her memoir. There's somebody who's writing a novel, and then I'm working on nonfiction. And I think for me, that's been helpful because these are not normally the people who would be in my writing group. I have a separate writing group that is comprised of other lyric essayists that we met at a particular, like a hybrid class, and we meet on our own on that. But for me, learning about how, fiction writers approach developing character. I mean, these are still the things that I need to know to tell a good story in my book. So I would say that's actually one of the strengths, is that you are all working on, we are all part of the book project, but working on different things. And sometimes how somebody else might be talking about an issue they're having, you might be able to learn and adapt. So.
Thank you, Sue. Brad Barfield, do you have a question?
Hi, yes. So my question, and I think that Erica actually might have answered a similar question from Maria, but my question was primarily about, what are the sort of things that that the application panel looks for in a potential applicant, and if there are any ways to potentially, vet some of the high level ideas that we might have around various projects that we might be working on, about which might be more or less successful as an entry into the application for the book project, or not. I think I have a lot of anxiety about, like, is this a good idea? Like, would this ever be a thing that has legs? I think Erica said, and so that's my question.
So are you saying, can you talk to someone ahead of time, or can you include that in your application?
I guess maybe both. I mean, I guess if we were like bouncing around like a couple of ideas and trying to figure out like what we cared about, and what sort of book length work we might want to apply with, if there is a quick way we could get some understanding, either from folks involved with the book project or someone else at Lighthouse, to be like, actually, that may not be something that's that will be successful here.
It is good. I think it's a good idea to apply with one project. So it would be useful probably. I've seen parts of your book, but I didn't know you had other books that you had going on. So like, I would be willing to talk to you about what the other projects are and how far you are into them. I mean, a lot of that, as I think Erica said, is usually there's a project that you really, if you had to choose, it's the one that you really want to work on. And I think that's the thing, because it takes a couple of weeks to write a novel, and you're going to want to really be locked into that project for those whole, like, a month or 10 years. But so if any of us have seen your work before, this is for Brad or for anybody, you might just want to drop us a line and say, these are the projects, this is what you've seen, this is what I'm thinking of applying with. I think that would be useful.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that, so I kind of had another sort of related question. I think one of the things that I'm hoping to gain potentially by being a participant in this project is not only to finish or get close to finishing a draft of a book, but really just like learn how to be a writer and like be, and just sort of craft that so that eventually this wouldn't be the only project that that I would finish over the course of my life. And so, if anyone on the mentee side has any thoughts about how, and I'm getting the sense this is the case, how the book project prepared them not only to finish a work, but also to be able to take that skill set and apply it to other works that you're excited about doing later on.
Do any of the mentees want to jump in on that one?
I'm happy to start. I mean, I think like a big part of the book writing process is like the psychological side of what it takes to write a book. Not just from like a mental health perspective, but also, like, how do you keep going when inspiration isn't coming easily? Or how do you deal with sort of like the peaks and valleys of feeling very attached to your work and not feeling attached to your work? And I think those skills are really durative, they're not particular to your particular project. And I think in terms of like, how do you be a writer in this world, there's a lot of like practical skills that I've learned over the course of the past year, just from people like Shauna who know about like the business of writing, but also from classes at Lighthouse. You can take a class on like developing a writing habit, or you can take a class on just editing, or you can take a class on, how do you pitch stories to national publications. There's a lot about both like the work itself and then the work about the work. And so I think those are sort of like investments that you can make in yourself that will continue to pay dividends in the future for your next project or for your life as a writer moving forward. And then the last piece I'd just say is that a lot of people in the book project aren't necessarily full-time writers. Like I know that most of the people in my cohort have like day jobs, and some of them are writing oriented jobs and some of them aren't. And so I think a lot of what I've learned is like, how do you structure writing into your life, even if you don't necessarily, go to the desk and sit down every single day.
Is that good, Brad? Yeah, very good. Lavanya asks, whether you prefer published or unpublished. We just want to see your best work. So
Thank
maybe your
you.
best
Thank you.
work isn't published. Who knows? Anybody else? Looks like most of this chat thing is like a hopping. There's all sorts of activity over there. People are answering questions right and left. Anything else that we can answer for you? You can wave your hand. Oh, go ahead.
Would it be possible to have the mentors kind of explain what their background is as far as the mentees looking at, okay, who they would want to be paired up with?
Do you mean like our writing background or our
writing background, but like, so for example,
background?
My novel is, I would call it speculative fiction in the near, kind of near future, that type of thing. But I was wondering what, I saw in the chat, like somebody has more of a journalistic background, and I think that's kind of what I'm wondering as far as the mentors and, as we rank who we would like to be paired up with.
I believe that
for our works.
On the application, or is it in the handbook, it talks about the kinds of work that each of the mentors is interested in.
I think it's in our bios, Bill.
In the bios?
I think we did it in our bios.
In the handbook, in the pamphlet, right?
Well, maybe, but I think on the faculty page, right? You go to faculty and you find us, and then there's our blurb, and then I think below that, Andrea had us put a little thing there.
Thank
you.
So there is information there, and as we've said, all of us have probably taken every kind of possible book already, because we've been doing this for quite a while. I've had anything from science fiction, like straight science fiction, to speculative, to mystery, to memoir, to just straight fiction. And I think that's true of all of us. Wahini has her first group, she joined us last year. Her first group was straight nonfiction all the way across the board. What else should I say? Do you want, I'm gonna let you check out the pamphlet, and you can just send me questions directly. Does everyone have my email, by the way, william@lighthousewriters.org? Kyle, you're ready to ask again.
Yes. What is the main reason, or what's the main reason you see why you have had to reject writers from the book project when they do apply?
I can jump in on that. We had some racist applications that we rejected out of hand.
Wow.
Yeah. If someone can't, that aside, someone who's obviously just kind of applying for the heck of it, not really putting any thought into the application, people who can't use grammar, things like that really have been like the out of hand rejections. And then other than that, it's on a case by case basis. And I can't think of anything else. If there's anything that puts up a serious red flag, again, like those like racist applications, then we just, goodbye. But other than that, we really, if it's a good person, applying, and a good writer, and they're trying really hard, then we try and look at each application holistically and be like, okay, well, they're at the beginning of their journey, but this idea is really good idea, and they know what they're doing, they have a plan, we've had experience with them, they're very teachable, they learn quickly, etc. So then we put together more of a picture of the person. Does that answer your question, Kyle?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we end up with quite a few applications, and we all read all the applications, we sort through them, we begin to get a sense of the ones that rise to the surface. Usually, a lot of it is based on just the quality of the writing. So make sure that you show us your very best writing, and then take your time on the application. If it seems sort of half-assed and sort of like they don't really answer the questions on the application, that can be a little bit of a red flag that maybe the person isn't ready to dedicate themselves to the whole process. But definitely show us your best work.
That's not asking too much.
No, it's not really. What are these? Is someone else raising their hand? Let's see. Oh, Andrea, could you talk a little bit about the fellowships?
Yes, sorry. So we have at least 2 fellowships every year. They're quite popular. Last year we had our first Writing in Color Fellowship, which is funded by our Writing in Color program, which if you're interested, check out our website. And we also just have a general fellowship. So what it does is provides a tuition-free spot, and it's competitive. So there are always way more people who are amazing writers who need the support than we can give fellowships to. The fellowship is selected typically by Shauna Kelly, who you all have heard from. And she's, looking at it as a reader, but also as somebody involved in the business. And we have been able in the past 2 years to also expand the number of fellowships we could give to include a teaching fellow who teaches some courses at Lighthouse in simultaneous with being part of the book project. And the first teaching fellow, Nini Burnt, is actually still teaching for Lighthouse. She's one of our most popular instructors. And she came to us with quite a bit of teaching experience through her MFA program and beyond. So that's also a possibility. That one we do on a case-by-case basis. There's also the potential that we split some of the fellowships just to reduce the tuition load. And just a note on the tuition, it's meted out. You're not paying a huge chunk of money like each year. It's meted out over months and sometimes extends beyond the book project itself just to make it more affordable on a monthly basis. So that's that. And you can, when you apply, you can check various boxes in terms of indicating your interest in a fellowship. So any questions on that?
Let's take one more question and then we're going to head off into the beautiful day. Let's see. Oh, looks like Brad got his questions answered. Maybe that's it for today. You have all of our emails. We really look forward to reading your work. It's always very tough because you're all so good. You all so good. Yes, I can talk. And thanks for joining us. And we look forward to seeing your work. Take care. Bye.